want to be in that race to the bottom. I'll do it for 50, I'll do it for 40 quid and so on. It's just, there's no point starting the keys in the van. But just check who you're dealing with. Check, are they a registered business? You want some reassurance that if something goes wrong, you can trace them. I use shoes as an example. I don't have a shoe fetish.
You just love talking about shoes. This is twice you brought this up
I don't have a shoe fetish.
I suspect you do, but go on. On this week's episode of The Engaging Marketeer, I'm joined by Phill Ridgway from All My Waste, who runs a waste disposal company. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking mafia. You're thinking Sopranos. You're thinking it's a cover story. He really is just a mafioso who shoots people and deals drugs. Phil, is this true?
Well, I did live in New Jersey.
You seriously? I was making all that up, and you actually...
I actually lived... I went to live in America. I lived in Boston for a year. Then before we had children, we moved down to New Jersey, home of the Sopranos.
Home of the Sopranos, and you're in waste management.
Yeah, so go figure.
Okay, I'm going to be a little bit more careful about what I crack jokes about now. So waste management, it's not glamorous, but I imagine it's extremely interesting, because I expect there's not a lot of secrets people have from you when you are rooting through what they want you to get rid of.
Yeah, it's far from glamorous from both sides. Some jobs, it might be just picking up the contents of somebody's shed that they've decided to clear out in the spring. Other jobs, like the go-ahead we had this morning for a job in Warrington, the chap had lived in the house for a very long time. He'd passed away in the property, and it's like stepping back in time. And it's horrible. It's ridden with bugs, cockroaches, stinks of nicotine. You have to wear masks to get in there.
Really?
So that kind of property, there's nothing really we'd salvage because everything is nasty and horrible. But there are the kind of properties, like one we cleared out in Hoylake 3 weeks ago, where there's some nice stuff in there that the family just don't want. So what I've done over the last year and a half is I bought myself a shipping container, and it's in our yard, and I've stored up all the booty, should we call it?
All the loot.
All the loot. Because when we go to clear a property, we have different contracts with the customers, and very often the contracts are to take everything. The kids don't want that old wooden sideboard that actually might be Edwardian. It might be, walnut. It might be mahogany.
Might be worth more than the house.
It might be worth £600, for example. So they've taken everything they want from the house, and that's the basis of those kind of contracts we have. So I stored all the good stuff until I had enough to open up a shop. So we opened up a shop in January, just outside Chester in Saltney.
Wow.
It's called Love Retro, and it's got everything in there from crystal to art to clothing to lighting to furniture, and 85% of it's pre-owned.
Wow. Is that a natural thing for somebody in house clearances to do?
I think there are some people who do it. I think a lot of the people locally in this area tend not to. They will load up the van or their truck with the waste, let's just call it, and they'll take it to the tip and get rid of it all. I wanted to try and reduce the effect on landfill. So there's an environmental reason, and I've always been quite focused on reuse and reviving things and upcycling. I've had an interest in that for a long time. So when I started this business, that was kind of the focus behind it, was to, try and reduce our costs in waste disposal. So if I've got a piece of furniture or a load of grandma's china that the 24-year-old grandchild doesn't want, and it's just going to get thrown out and put on the heap, I will take that, we'll clean it up, we'll value it, we'll put it on eBay.
So did you always have an interest in antiques, collectibles, knick-knack? No.
Not in the slightest.
Not in the slightest.
Not in the slightest. I fell into this business, like I say, when we had our pre-chat about 2.5 years ago. After I had a business that had closed due to COVID, I had a van left over, and what should I do with this van? I don't really need it. And a couple of friends then said to me, can you give us a hand moving some furniture? And then, can you give us a hand? I bought a fridge on Marketplace, big tall fridge. Can you give me a hand? You've got a van, do you mind? And then it sprouted from there. And I then saw what other man and van kind of services were offering. And I thought, I can do better than this. I can provide a professional service. I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to look presentable. I'm going to charge a fair price. I don't want to be in that race to the bottom. I'll do it for 50, I'll do it for 40 quid and so on. It's just, there's no point starting the keys in the van for less than a certain amount because there's costs involved. So that's where it was born. So I thought, I'm going to start a man and van service. And then people started asking about tip runs and waste. So I then investigated that and I thought, actually, this is the way I want to go. So here I am 2 years. We're just coming up to the end of our second trading year.
Wow. So it's almost like an accidental business. You just happen to have the equipment, so people are asking for it.
Totally accidental.
That's what entrepreneurship's all about.
Yeah, I saw an opportunity in the market. There's plenty of people doing... I'm on all the Facebook groups, obviously, and a lot of jobs come in. We've got 2 Facebook pages, one for our local man and van service, and the other one is called All My Waste. We've got one for Love Retro for the shop as well. But the man and van and the waste Facebook pages, we get to see all the people inquiring for or offering out jobs. I've got some waste. Can somebody collect my sofa? And Wrexham, for example, somebody puts a post in there, can somebody give me a price for collecting my sofa? Within half an hour, there's 30, 40 people.
Yeah.
Some of them are just names. They're just somebody with a van. They're not legal businesses. They're probably not insured. They may not be licensed. They're certainly, most likely not paying tax, and they're most likely not paying waste disposal fees.
Yeah, and that sofa's probably going to end up in a field somewhere.
In a field,
over
being
a hedge.
buried, being fly tipped.
Burned illegally, yeah. And
sofas are terrible now. Some of the recycling companies have started charging more for sofas because of the foam that's inside them. It's highly toxic.
So from a customer's point of view, if you advertise, say you put on Facebook, I'm looking for someone to take away my sofa.
Yes.
And then 40 people respond with, I'll do that, I'll do that, I'll do it for a tenner, I'll do it for a fiver. And it becomes like Name That Tune, if you remember that. I'll name that tune in one.
Yeah, I remember that.
They're all bidding as low as they possibly can to do it. And you then end up paying someone a fiver to take your sofa away, and they dump it in a field like a mile away from your house.
Yes.
And it's somehow traceable to you. Who's responsible?
Maybe down the back of that sofa, maybe that's a good example, but maybe down the back of that sofa there's an old utility bill. Or maybe there's a bag of rubbish with it you've taken as well. And inside that bag of rubbish is some correspondence.
Yeah, it's got your address on it.
So the local authority or the environment agency or whichever agency is doing that role, wherever they are, somebody will have reported the fly tipping, and one of the agencies will go along, or a private company. We've done some jobs like that, cleared up some fly tipping for farmers in particular, and they'll look at the addresses and they'll try and trace it back. And depends on what local authority or which agency you're dealing with. Some of them are very kind. If it's a first offence, saying, look, you've got to check who you're dealing with. You've got to make sure they're licensed, and there's an onus upon you as the householder or the business owner to make sure you're dealing with a company that's registered with the Environment Agency or Natural Resources Wales, which is who we're registered with because we're based in Wales, but the license covers the UK. So make sure they're registered, and if they wave a piece of paper in front of you, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're still registered. It might have expired. So you can do a quick search online to make sure they're registered, who they are, where their office is. And if they're going on your property into your boundary, they should carry insurance as well, liability insurance. Yeah. And most don't, in my experience.
Because it could go even worse. If they're coming into your property, they're seeing what you've got. They're having a good look around your house.
That's a really, really good point that I've not perhaps picked up on. That's a really good point. You don't know who these people are.
Why invite someone into your house that's offered to get rid of your sofa for a fiver? When essentially that's their lead magnet.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's their way in, scope out. What sort of locks have you got?
Yes.
What sort of TV have you got? Yeah, have you got a shed? Where's the key for the shed? Where do you keep that?
Yeah.
Particularly if they're clearing stuff out the garden. They may even ask, where's the key for the shed?
Yeah.
Need to get in there to get the spade out.
Yeah.
And then they'll be back 3 weeks later, 2:00 in the morning. doing another house clearance.
Gone without a trace.
Yeah.
Now, there are some legitimate businesses, and I think there are people like I was 2 years ago starting out. But just check who you're dealing with. Check, are they a registered business? You want some reassurance that if something goes wrong, you can trace them. And be comfortable who you're dealing with, who you're talking to. Can they communicate well with you? What kind of language are they using? When the guys turn up, are they effing and blinding in front of your kids? Are they carrying around a cigarette in the hand? Do they look like they've just come through a hedge backwards? Okay, we're in the waste world, but we can still be tidy.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It frustrates me because there's a lot of people like that out there, and really all they need to do to turn their businesses around is be a bit more presentable and communicate clearly.
It's because it's deemed as being very easy, isn't it? There's no barrier to entry. Anyone can do it. All you need is a vehicle.
You need a vehicle.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be your vehicle. You just need access to a vehicle, and there you are. You can present yourself as waste disposal.
You can borrow your mate's van at the weekend.
Yeah, even if he doesn't know.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, maybe he's on holiday. So that was really my passion about trying to build up a company that's more professional, not more professional, that is professional, and we've got some serious plans for growth.
Well, that was going to be my next point, actually. What are your plans for growth? Where can you take this?
Well, I'm excited about the business, but some people say I should be a bit more open about my plans, but I'm cautious at the same time. I've had meetings with some big waste companies around North Wales, and some of these companies have started out very simply like I have, and they're quite friendly and helpful and in terms of giving me a sense of direction. Our main core business is collecting rubbish, junk, waste by hand. We don't have grabbing machines. We don't have diggers, bulldozers for yard clearance. We do it all by hand, and that's our niche. There are places in Chester and Liverpool where we also do a lot of work where you've got to get a permit for a skip. I think it's about 70, 80 quid in Chester now to have a skip on the street. That's somewhere like Hoole. Okay, so you get your skip, you get your permit, and your skip's there for a week, and you wake up in the morning, somebody else's kitchen's in your skip.
Yeah, of course it is.
And in Liverpool particularly, and I know this from customers, clients, it's common. So how do I describe this? So some of the services that are perhaps not professional services, they'll fill up their van during the day, and at night they'll drive around and empty the van into different skips. That's common practice in some metropolitan cities.
So that's just part of their procedures. That's what they do.
That's how they get rid of their waste. So
yeah.
So they may not fly tip it. They're disposing of it, but still illegally because it's theft. Effectively, you're stealing somebody else's space that they're paid for. So that happens. So that's the danger of a skip. If you live in a nicer area, that's unlikely to happen, but it still can happen.
Yeah.
So so we do all our waste by hand. So we can access awkward places. We can bring things down from flights of stairs if the lift's not working. Our goal is to build up a team of 5 to 6 vans. We've just got a new vehicle a week ago. We use high top, long wheelbase transits or similar brands.
Yeah.
Because we are going to get a cage tipper, but we want enclosed vehicles. So when we do the house clearances, we can keep everything dry and clean, and all the stuff that we're going to keep and filter out. So that's our goal: is to become a really strong brand in this area, Chester, Wirral, North Wales, for waste removal, property clearances.
Okay.
And we're partnering up with estate agents, letting agents, all those kinds of businesses.
Yeah. Because that'll be regular work for you.
Yes. We get, just being very open and honest, we earn a bit less from those jobs, but they're regular. So we get on their books, They do all their background checks on us. Oh, and also, quite importantly, we are DBS checked.
Right.
Many are not. And I think that's important if you've got vulnerable people around. And also, it just tells your customer, hey, these guys have got no police record. They've got no history of any criminality. And I think it's a bit of reassurance for our clients and customers. Because often we're left on our own. Very often. We're given maybe here's the code to the garage. Here's the code to the house. We're out at work. They might have cameras in there. Here's the key code for the back gate.
Yeah,
so
you don't want to be doing that to people who you don't trust, people who are just going to rip you off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So really be really, really careful. People need to be really, really careful who they're dealing with. And I know for some people, they just want the bottom price. So we just don't deal with that anymore. Let somebody else take that risk.
Yeah, so you can ignore those kind of customers. It's the same for a lot of trades, I imagine.
I guess it must be.
Carpet fitters, joiners, that kind of thing, where it's just going to be, I'll have a go at that. Jack of all trades, handyman, I'll try it.
Yeah.
Not skilled, not really good at it. You're going to get a bit of a shit job, but it's going to be cheap. And that's what some people want.
And you get what you pay for. I mean, for me, I don't buy, it's a bit of a side issue, but I don't buy lots of shoes. I will go and buy a pair of Lokes.
Wasn't sure we were going to go into a shoe discussion, but okay.
I will buy a pair of shoes
right,
that maybe are 150 quid, but they'll last me 10, 12 years. I'll get them resold.
Oh, okay.
So it's about quality. And it's the same in any business. You're going to get what you pay for. So at the end of a job, we brush up, we clean up, we take before and after photographs, we send the after photographs to the client. We ask permission to use the photographs and videos in our social media. So we just go through the right checklist. So you know who you're dealing with. You're dealing with a company that's going to take care, and they have a responsibility to the environment as well as you as a client.
I'm interested in the shop, actually, because I've seen businesses like this before, and I remember there being one on Dragon's Den. It was completely different, but it was tyres. Tyres, yeah. So they were picking up tyres that needed to be recycled, and they were then selling them on for something else. I think it was like children's parks, swings, racetracks, that kind of thing. But the beauty of it was they were getting paid at both ends. So they were getting paid to pick the tyres up. So they were being paid to get their stock. And then they were being obviously paid when they got rid of their stock. So it kind of made it the perfect business.
Absolutely.
Seems to be what you've got here. You're getting paid to get your stock for your shop, and then obviously making money when you sell it as well.
Yes.
You've created perfection. So it appears.
Okay. Well, we're getting close to perfection. We're not, that's maybe hard to achieve. But yes, it's not quite utopia, but we're getting close. But what that allows us to do, it allows us to keep our costs a little bit lower. And in our shop, you'll have to come and visit.
I would love to come and visit.
We
a retro shop. Oh, yeah.
We've got 1970s, 80s record players. We've got crystal. We've got brassware, artwork, furniture, clothing.
Say the magic word. Say the magic word. What have you got?
What are you fishing for?
I don't know. What else have you got? What do you pick up? What sort of stuff do you get?
We get toys.
Do you now?
Games.
By God, do you?
Is that your magic word?
That's the magic word. Right. Because people throw this stuff
vintage
out.
Games of Monopoly, for example, Scrabble, Connect 4 from the 80s. These cool stuff. Some of them are damaged when you open them. Some of them have been in the garage for 10 years. They're wet and mouldy, so they have to get binned.
Yeah.
But we do find some interesting things. People leave jewellery. People leave watches, gold chains, because they're just, I don't know. Why do they leave them? I don't know. Because they're in drawers. Well, we take the set of drawers away, or the dressing table. Inside those drawers are often maybe a pair of gold earrings, worth a lot. But people do leave stuff like that, amazingly.
One person's junk is another person's...
Yeah. So I was saying about the shop. So we don't charge a lot of money. We have antiques in there. At the moment, we've got an Edwardian, it's a floor-to-ceiling Edwardian. It's like a Welsh dresser, but it's a bureau. So the front looks like a drawer, folds down, and there's a leather inlay in it, and it's like a nice bureau. And I've researched it. And if I was in London and I was an antique dealer, I'd be selling it for £1,200.
Yeah.
Here, I'll be lucky if I can get 300 for it. And it's beautiful. It's mahogany. So if anybody's watching, even, it's great. It's a great deal for a dealer. They can buy it from me for £300. So that's really what I'm saying is most of the stuff in the shop is super cheap.
Super cheap.
For what it is. Cheap's the wrong word. Great value.
Value. Underpriced.
It is underpriced.
A steal for somebody.
Because I want to move it. I want to move it along. Now, we have started to buy in some vintage clothing. Okay. So we've bought in some imported US Levi's, pre-loved, pre-owned, and some Ralph Lauren polo shirts. All vintage, 80s, 90s, because I quite like the clothing, the vintage clothing side of it, and we don't have enough. So I've just bought some in, and they're going quite well, interestingly. There used to be a couple of vintage shops in Chester, but I think most of them have gone. Because maybe it's difficult to rely on selling those just on their own. So we've got them as well. We're only open on Saturdays, 10:30 till 4:30.
Oh, really? Is that all?
Yes.
Shit.
Because the shopkeeper
is busy picking stuff.
It's busy getting the stuff for the shop during the week.
Yeah.
I am looking to take somebody on part-time to do that. I just wanted to do it myself for a couple of months just to get it set up and get a feel for what we need to do. So we just open Saturdays.
And how is it for stock? I mean, do you have a lot in there? Do you have stuff that you've got in storage waiting to go in there?
Yes, it's rammed.
Yeah.
Thankfully, this week we've sold 3 or 4 quite large pieces of vintage furniture.
Hence, you really want to sell this bureau because it's taken up a lot of space.
It's taken up a lot of space. We had a piano a few weeks ago.
Really? Shit.
An upright chapel. I don't know how you pronounce it. Piano. Beautiful piano. Couldn't get rid of it. Nobody wants them. They're big. It took 4 of us to get it into the van. Super heavy.
Wow.
We ended up giving it away for the cost of delivery. We made a bit of money delivering it because I needed two guys, and the lady who took it had 2 guys her end.
And she was no doubt delighted.
She got a piano for free to replace her old one. So some things are more difficult. But we have a lot on Facebook Marketplace. So throughout the week, a lot of the furniture gets sold throughout the week. So, somebody might be selling a nice old storage chest, that goes at the end of the bed to put blankets in, or a toy storage chest from the 30s, 40s, that in an antique shop might be 300-400 quid. I'll sell it for 60. Somebody can upcycle it.
Wow.
And then I've got a lady in Wrexham who's got a really cool shop. I can't remember the name of it. She'll kill me if she sees this. But she upcycles pine furniture. So if I get a nice pine bedroom set, she'll buy it from me really cheap. Maybe 40-50 quid for the whole set. And then they'll spend time getting it all nice and putting new handles on, and they sell it through their shop in Wrexham and do really well. I just want to move the stuff along. It's too nice to throw away. Now, a lot of waste people they'll flatten that and get rid of it.
Yeah, which is a shame, isn't it?
Now, talking about double dipping, I don't know if a lot of people know this. I don't know if it's a trade secret. It's not really.
Oh.
People like Thorncliffe, where we take a lot of our waste, we pay to get rid of our waste.
Yeah.
It's important for people to understand this. They think we're doing a tip run to the council tip.
And just chucking it in a hole somewhere. Yeah.
Well, yeah, down Bumpers Lane in Chester is where the Chester Council depot is for taking your waste. And you have to be a resident of the local council in which, where you're tipping the waste. And the Chester has ANPR cameras, and they want to check what you've got in the back of your car. Most waste sites now don't allow vans in because they know it might be tradespeople or people like me trying to get rid of their waste. and not paying for it. So because we're commercial, we have to pay for our waste. So customers often look at the price and think, well, why does it cost so much? Because we have to go over the weighbridge. We pay for it by the weight.
Right.
And there's different categories, whether it's wood, whether it's general waste, whether it's bulky waste like furniture, whether it's rubble, bricks, plasterboard, metal, or whatever it is. They're all different prices and different categories. So we try and separate those out into amounts big enough to make it worthwhile. So that's a big part of our cost is the disposal fees. Now, people like Thorncliffs then use the wood that we pay for. They chip it all up and use it in their own. I don't know if incinerator is the right word, but they've got their own heating system, which is really cool, and they use all the old wood chippings to heat all their sheds up in Altamy near Mould. So they get free heating, plus they're charging. The waste has to be paid for. I get that.
Yeah.
But it's really good that it's a circular
used.
economy.
Yeah.
It's being reused. It's not going into landfill. It's not just going to sit there and rot in a hole in the ground. It's being reused. So I'm quite focused on that. And that's why the shop was born. Because all this stuff, why throw it all away?
It's interesting when you ask about commercial waste, because they won't let you go in if you're a commercial disposal. I remember years ago I turned up at the tip in Ellesmere Port in an Aston Martin with some rubbish on the front seat.
Oh my God.
Proper rubbish. And the guy was quizzing me as I was going in, asking if this was commercial waste. And it's like, mate.
Yeah, there's a bit of a clue outside.
Yeah. I do all my tip runs in an Aston. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
But he still asked. Maybe they have to ask everybody. Maybe it's in the procedures. But a bit of common sense.
Yeah. I think it's obvious for some things.
I've not just come from a building site.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've not got a load of bricks on my front seat.
No.
Or some plasterboard.
I think it was tree cuttings or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I was doing it in that car, but there we go.
It does. It does happen. So we're trying to grow the business, and we are growing slowly and steadily. And I'm trying to grow the business without too much debt. With vehicles, you end up having to finance them if you want good quality vehicles.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of vans over the last 2 years that I've bought secondhand. One I bought secondhand. I bought it privately. This is a lesson for me and anybody else who wants to take it as a lesson. Be really careful. I bought a van. It was a 2013 Ford Transit. Just been MOT'd, had £600 spent on it. 6 days into it, the engine went. Turbo went. All the bits flew into the engine. Write off, 4,800 quid. Cash. I'd saved up a year and a half for it.
Wow.
Gone. I got £600 scrap for it because the engine... there were parts on there that could be used. So I got scrap value and a bit more for it. So be careful. So I need reliability. I need to know that the vehicles are going to serve their function. So I've just decided to get vehicles that are newer. Okay, they cost a bit more, but reliability is important for us. If you've booked me in for 4 p.m. this afternoon because you've got a big party on tomorrow afternoon and you want all the rubbish clearing, you want me to show up. So we need reliability.
Yeah, reliability is key. It's the same in any industry, isn't it? If you book someone to turn up, you expect them to turn up at that time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't trust that it's going to happen.
We've done 2 jobs since January where people haven't turned up. One was a house move. The mum of the young lady who was moving from a flat in Chester was in tears on the phone. Can you help? It's a Sunday morning. Can you help? Our removal guy hasn't shown up. I know who he is. I'm not going to name him, but he hadn't shown up. So he's either got a better job or he's completely forgotten and not organised as a business, doesn't have it in a calendar or doesn't have a diary system. He's written it on the back of a cigarette packet in his van. Or he's been ill. If you're ill or you've had to go away, then you tell your customer, and you contact another man and van saying, look, can you help my customer? There's ways to do things. So anyway, I'm not trying to sound like the knight in shining armour, but I was free that Sunday morning and I went and helped. I didn't charge Sunday rates. I charged normal rates. I just felt. So, and then there was one in early February where somebody hadn't shown up. Now, guys, if you're going to be in the business, show up. Rule number one of business: show up. If you go to Primark, and there's nothing wrong with Primark. I bought hoodies from Primark, but if you go and buy a pair of shoes from Primark, a pair of men's shoes, they're not going to last very long. They're high fashion. I don't know why I use shoes as an example. I don't have a shoe fetish.
You just love talking about shoes. This is twice you brought this up.
I don't have a shoe fetish.
I suspect you do, but go on.
I'll save that for another podcast.
It's like being on Sex and the City. It really is.
But you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
You get what you pay for. Now, if it's too good to be true, it usually is. It's an old mantra, but it's true. Very often it's true. You might get a good deal occasionally that's sincere and genuine, but if you want somebody to show up, deal with somebody professional, deal with somebody who, not only, you don't necessarily have to look the part, but who is professional all round. Because on that Sunday morning or that Tuesday morning, when you're exchanging contracts and you've been tasked to go and pick up a fridge freezer for someone that they bought on Marketplace, you want the guy to show up.
Yeah.
So show up, guys.
Yeah. It's the same it's the same in our industry as well.
Is it?
Yeah. People ask us about websites and they decide they're going to go somewhere cheaper because someone's going to do it for their portfolio, for the exposure. They're going to do it for 50 quid. And funnily enough, they don't end up finishing it and they disappear and they can't get hold of them. So that's what you get.
Yeah. And you've lost all that time.
Yeah, you've lost the time. Any money you have paid is gone. Maybe you've even lost a domain name and access to a website, which happens a lot. So many businesses come to us and say, I had a website built by this guy met him on Facebook, or he's a friend of a friend, or it's my cousin's nephew, and we can't get hold of him. We can't get access to a website. We don't know how to do it. So you've probably lost that.
Well, that's why I love what you guys do. That's how I know you. I mean, you're in the process of building our website for us.
We are, yes.
And I know it's taken a bit longer because that's down to me coming back to you guys, but we'll get there shortly. Yeah. And I think, a decent website is going to cost you a couple of grand. So as a small fledgling business, which we are/were, cash flow is important. And I didn't want to outlay $2.5 grand. So you have a great deal where we can pay it monthly over a couple of years, and that suits us really well.
Yeah, it's really popular.
Yeah,
it's really popular.
And I've come across other people actually who've had it. So
there's a lot of at it.
There's a plug back for you there.
Thank you. There's a lot of at it. Yeah, we have several going live each month.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good. Well, it's a great option. You get what you pay for. If you're paying 300 quid for a website, what are you going to get?
Yeah.
You might get lucky occasionally, but chances are you're not.
Yeah, you might hit that one person who's brilliant at it and they've just started.
Yeah, and they just love what they do and they want to get a portfolio built up. And,
chances are you've got somebody who's shit.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like 99% certain that's what you've got.
Yeah.
But, yeah. You mentioned going into people's houses and picking stuff up and then doing it from the garden, and obviously you're selling stuff that you can sell. What's the weirdest shit?
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, well, it's going to happen.
I've had a few things that are interesting. Those of you who know Chester really well will know Lower Bridge Street. And down Lower Bridge Street, walking down on the left, about halfway down, is a doll shop.
I am familiar with that doll shop. I have walked past there many times, and it is creepy as fuck.
That's the word I was going to use. It's creepy. I remember, I'm just 58 now, and I remember as a kid, in our young teens, we'd walk past it, we'd giggle, we'd open the door, have a quick look, and then run off. Because we thought the old man was going to come out and get us. And it's still there.
I'd be worried the doll was going to come out and get you. Who's buying that shit?
We get some creepy dolls in.
Really?
And I have taken photographs of some of them. So we've had some creepy looking dolls. You know, where you see a pile of rubbish and there's a head sticking out of it. It's like something out of a horror film.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a fun, kind of creepy thing.
So you think these things are possessed?
I don't know, but the eyes when they look at you give me shivers.
And do they end up in the shop for sale?
Most of them are beyond use, but occasionally we've had a couple. We've sold them on Facebook.
Really?
There's a couple of collectors' dolls We've got one now in the shop, actually. I've got to price it up, and it's going to go on eBay. It's in a box. You open the lid, and it's like staring at you, and it's a bit. This one's really old. It's a collector's brand.
Yeah.
So that, I think I had a quick look, and it's probably worth 70, 80 quid.
Oh, right. Cool.
We had a pair of Siamese cats, matching pair, and they looked like they were hand painted. And I looked underneath, and there's all the signatures and logos and stamps. And I tend to use Google Lens now. It's really good for like researching. And there was a bit of an inkling as to what it might be, so I dug a bit deeper. And it's a pair of Siamese, Japanese painted Siamese cats, hand painted, and the painter's initials were on the bottom, and they were numbered. Anyway, these things were worth about 400 quid. I sold them on eBay, I think.
400 quid for some China cats.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Somebody essentially just asked you to clear them out, get rid of them.
Obviously, I think the people who inherited the property from their mum or dad, I can't remember, they didn't want them. It's not their thing. They've got a nice modern house. I can't remember, but I'm assuming they've probably got a nice modern house that those things didn't have a place, and they thought they were just, grandma bought them from the charity shop.
Yeah. Which she may have done.
She may have done. In fact,
maybe grandma had a real eye for this stuff, but
yeah. So things like that. Records. I've got a couple of boxes of albums, haven't even opened yet.
Oh, could be anything
I
in
know
there.
There's a couple of Rolling Stones ones in there, so I don't know. I need to get them priced up. The problem is time. Yeah. So this stuff sits there, and it's starting to build up a little bit too much. Haven't found a Rolex watch yet. I watch all these American TV programs, where the storage wars and where they're bidding on these storage containers and stuff like that. That's a lot of that staged. I know that for a fact, but it's interesting and it's fun. But there's some good reclaim shows here now where, they find old tractors and they find old toys and they fix them and.
There's a Storage Hunters UK.
That's the one.
Storage Hunters UK with what's his name, Sean. The host, the American guy, does the hosting as well.
He
doesn't
does. That's right.
And in the US one, was it 8 Mile? Is the guy that cuts the locks?
The lock with the big bolt cutters.
And in the UK, he's given him a variation of that name. It's like Half Mile or something.
Something like that. It's a play on it. Yeah. So I like watching stuff like that. No, we've had nothing majorly valuable. A few interesting, quirky things. We cleared one lady's house out, and they went on cruises. So she had about 50 dresses, like gowns, ball gowns.
Wow.
And apparently they'd all been worn once or twice. They were immaculate. Wow. So I sold those to a dress dealer who sells them on eBay. I didn't want to, it's not my forte. So I sold them wholesale to somebody who, can stage them on a nice mannequin and take photos and sell them on eBay for lots more money than I could ever sell them for. So, we come across some stuff like that. But I would say 9 out of 10 times there's very little that we find other than all the little things we have in the shop, pieces of art, crystal, some nice brassware, furniture. We had a shed full of tools, really good quality tools, garden equipment, stuff like that that we sell.
And you mentioned toys, it's just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
You picked up any Star Wars toys in there?
No. But you would be the first person I would come to.
Any Transformers?
If I did, no.
No? You might not know because they're in disguise.
Well, that's a good point. They could look like a car.
Exactly. Could look like a car, could look like a plane, could look like a dinosaur, could look like anything,
All of a sudden, and there it goes. It comes to life.
Yeah.
No. But I think there's a reason for that, Darren. I think the reason is now, because of all these TV shows, and there's a big shop in Mold called the Departmental Store. They do what we do. They do house clearances, but they're much bigger. They've been around, I think, 15 years. But because of these types of shops, and even our little shop and all the TV programs, people are a bit wiser now to what they throw away.
Well, you say that, but a lot of my nerd mates, the bastards, they do the charity shop.
They still do
the ring. They're doing, and they're still finding stuff in charity shops. Like Transformers toys from like 1984, and
Cool.
they're worth like 30, 40 quid for a little plastic figure about that big.
Yeah.
And they're still picking those up and paying 50p for them.
I think, yes, I think things slip through the net.
Yeah.
And I know when I was building up my eBay business, I would do the charity shop circuit because I quite enjoyed it. You're looking for that, diamond in the coalface.
Yeah.
And they're out there. They're still there. But a lot of the charities now, if they get branded clothing in, whether it's Ralph Lauren or Valentino or Chanel, stuff like that, or even nice brands like good quality brands like Next and Coast, they take those things out. A lot of them are not in the local shops. They go to the big shops in Manchester, Liverpool, London, or they go on their own eBay shop. So the charities are getting wise to a lot of it now. But I think some of the smaller charity shops, the little backwater ones in little villages and towns, not being sexist here, but it's usually ladies who run these shops. The ladies in the shops are maybe retired and they don't really know. So they'll just put a £3 sticker on that, and it might be a £40 Transformer. It looks like a kid's toy car, but it might turn into
because it is a kid's toy car. But just happens to be 40 years old.
I think there's still some bargains in the charity shops, for sure. And I think if you're a treasure hunter, I think you can still find some good stuff. But I'll bear you in mind if you do.
Oh, thank you. Because my brother used to do what you did.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did house clearances
locally.
No, he was back in South Wales, so he lived in Cardiff. So he would do house clearances, but he never classed himself as waste disposer or anything like that. But he had a quite large shop in what's called the pumping station in Cardiff.
Okay.
So it was pretty much half the downstairs of the pumping station. So it was maybe 4 or 5 units in there, which would normally be separate shops.
So it was an old building that was used for pumping water.
It was like near Cardiff Bay, so it was,
Yeah.
presumably
And they
pumping.
get split up into mini units for people.
Yeah,
One of
so
those.
it was 2 or 3 floors, this thing, and he had like most of the downstairs, and it was just full of shit that he had literally got from house clearances, from going in, wiping people's house out and filling it out. So he didn't pay for any of that stock whatsoever. It was all profit. And I used to go to boot sales with him because he'd do that as well.
Done some of those.
And I was staggered at how he would get stuff and pay for it and sell it. Yep. So at the end of this one boot sale in Cardiff, I think it was in Splot Market. Anybody from Cardiff knows Splot? Weird name, but there we are. At the end of the boot sale, people who couldn't sell their stuff are throwing it in the skip. Because there was a skip there. Yeah. Paul,
especially the householders, because they're moving house probably, and they want to get rid of the crap.
Get rid of it. Don't want it. This is crap. Nobody wants it. He jumped into one of the skips, came out with a load of stuff that was just absolute shit.
Yeah.
Following week, sold it. Just fair play. That's brilliant.
Well, if you go on YouTube and you start to search for dumpster diving, it's big in the US. There's some cool people. I follow them and watch them. I know it's sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I follow them as well. And these guys go behind all the retail parks, like Cheshire Oaks.
Yeah.
Behind Cheshire Oaks are all the dumpsters. What do we call them? Skips.
The
ones with lids on.
Yeah.
And these guys go in and they find all the old stock, things that, maybe slightly damaged. Anyway, whatever it is, they go in and reclaim all this stuff. It's amazing. And there's a whole microeconomy around that.
Turning rubbish into money.
Yeah. And I think it adds a fun side to the business. It really does. And there's some, we've had some furniture that we've sold and people have just been over the moon that the fact they've got this nice piece of old furniture for 30 quid. That might, in an antique shop, they might have paid 200 for it. No, I'm not an antique dealer. I can't command those prices, and put the fancy little tags on and all that kind of stuff. If you come into my shop and you say to me, oh, there's a 1930s mug. How much is that? I'll say, that's 3 quid.
Yeah. Well, you see, when my brother was doing it, he approached it from an antiques point of view because he was really into antiques. He had a very old soul. He should have been born in the 1920s,
I know what
I think.
You mean. Yeah.
So he knew a lot about antiques, and he knew all the Royal Dalton figures, and he knew which ones were worth more, and he had catalogues of them, and he had huge collections of these Royal Dalton, the Toby character jokes.
Yes, absolutely.
Ugly as sin. But some of them worth hundreds and hundreds of pounds.
You might offend some people saying that.
But they are ugly.
They are. I've got stuff in my shop that is like, I would never in a million years buy that for myself.
Yeah.
But somebody out there loves that stuff.
But he loved it. And he knew which was a second and which was a first, because there was like a little logo at the bottom of Royal Dalton, and if it was a second, which meant it was imperfect, they'd drill through it slightly.
Yeah.
So you knew that was an inferior one, therefore was worth less.
Yeah.
And then some people would try and cover that up and pass it off as a first. Yeah. So he knew all this shit.
Interesting.
I forgot where I'm even going with this. Oh, yeah, because you don't know... You've not come at it from an antiques point of view, so you weren't interested.
I've not.
So are you ever concerned or worried that you might have something that is actually worth thousands and thousands of pounds and you sell it for a £5?
All the time. But I've got over it now.
You are...
I have kind of got over it mostly. I know there's some things there that are probably... I could probably sell them for a lot more. But I don't have the time to research them and get connected with all the right people. Our main core business is waste and clearances, and the shop has kind of been born out of that, if you like.
Yeah.
Only because it's the stuff is just too, not necessarily too good to throw away, because a lot of people do throw it away, but I just think it's too good to throw away. It's my opinion. And there is some stuff in the shop that ends up being there for quite some time, and then I tend to clear it out, put it in boxes, and sell it to people who go to car boot sales. And there are large companies out there who, in the rag trade, who will come and buy clothing from you, and so we get lots of clothing. So, yes, I do, but I'm quite astute now at looking for the obvious things. It's the not so obvious things, I guess, that you might miss. But you can't really lose any sleep over it.
No, I guess not. No,
I'm just not that antique. The professional side of the antique world is something I'm not into. So I don't know. I don't have the connections yet.
It's dodgy as well.
Is it dodgy?
It's really, really freaking dodgy. Yeah, because you mentioned they're putting stuff in boxes for people to sell at boot sales. Yep. If you've got stuff that you can't flog, that you think, well, nobody's going to want this shit. What you can do is make up boxes of it and then take it to auctions, and people will buy the box. And I've done that, bidding on boxes. And I did it once at an auction because there was a Sega Game Gear at the bottom of the box.
Cool.
And I knew it was in there. And I knew people are paying £3 or £4 for these boxes. And if you bid £1, somebody else bids £2, you're bidding £3. So somebody else bid £1. I went straight to £3. And my brother's like, what are you doing that for? You've got
out a bit there.
No, seriously, but I knew no one would go to 4 because nobody ever went to 4.
Yeah.
He's like, why have you gone straight to 3? You should have gone to 2 because then someone else would have gone to 3. So I've got it for 3. That's fucking Game Gear in there.
Breaking stuff.
Exactly. It was breaking stuff. But it was really dodgy because the auctioneers were bent. Everybody in there was bent. My brother was bidding on his own stuff. Deliberately bidding on his own stuff, but really over the top to push the price up.
Yeah.
And then the auctioneers then know this is going on. They didn't realise it at one point that he was doing it in there. And afterwards, they're speaking to him and he's paying for his stuff. He goes, oh, Paul, sorry, I didn't realise that was one of yours. I wouldn't have put the hammer down if I'd known it was yours. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
The whole thing's corrupt.
When I first started my eBay business, going back a while, I would go to Burns Auctioneers in Saltney, Chester, and I would buy these boxes.
Yeah, these blind boxes.
Well, these weren't blind, to be fair. You know the old vegetable and fruit boxes?
Yeah.
They're open. They have the bananas in and fruit.
Oh, that's the thing. Yeah, these boxes, you could see what was in them, but you weren't allowed to dig deep in and pull stuff out. So you're like looking at it going, yeah, I could see what's in them. Rather like the storage hunter thing. I can see the tip of something
looking quite Star Wars-ish.
Exactly.
Down there.
Yeah,
so I'll buy that box.
That's the one.
And you might get lucky.
You might get lucky.
For £3, it doesn't matter, does it?
And the rest of it might be shit.
Stick it back in the auction next month and get your £3 back.
Or chuck it in the skip outside.
Or chuck it in the skip if you couldn't be bothered.
But my brother wouldn't do that. He'd sell it.
Yeah.
Nothing went in the skip.
I used to buy some of those when I was first starting my eBay or building up my eBay business after I left financial services, and I would buy china, crates and crates of saucers and plates and cups, and part of me wishes I hadn't really let that deteriorate because I really enjoyed it. I loved looking at the plates. God, it sounds a bit sad, doesn't it? Looking at the back of a plate, it's Royal Dalton. Okay, I'll research it. Okay, it's 1920s Royal Dalton from the Bluebell range, let's call it. And it's a saucer, and it's one saucer. So I'll go on eBay, look at some comparisons, go on a couple of antique sites and find, actually, this plate's worth 25 quid. So I'll go on eBay, I'll list it on eBay for £15, and they fly out.
Yeah.
And they go to Italy, Argentina. These are places I've sent items to. Australia, Germany, America. And you might ask, why? Why somebody? Well, because somebody has either bought a set or relocated overseas. Little Johnny's knocked a saucer over.
And they need that.
And it's grandma's tea service that they've got in their nice house in Boston in the US. And they want to buy another little plate to match. And they'll go on eBay because it's a global marketplace. And oh, look, Phil's selling one of those in Chester. It's 15 quid plus 30 quid packing and import duty. And they'll pay it. Or they've chipped a plate, so washing it by hand.
Is China something that you've got an interest in? That is. So
it is, and we've got some in the shop.
You're into your Clarice Cliff and
your
Troika.
Yes, not. I won't say into them, but I can identify. I'm aware of what I'm looking for. I'm not an expert by a long shot, and I always price things to sell. I don't want it sitting on eBay Marketplace at 100 quid when I know at 60 quid it'll fly out within a week. So I'm about turnover. And people getting good value. And I've got about 6, 7, 8 boxes, normal household packing boxes full of china that I haven't opened yet. And there's Royal Doulton in there, Royal Worcester, all sorts, figurines, glassware. Got some nice vintage glass vases. So I quite like that side of it. But that doesn't make me much money, really. It takes a lot of time. You need to be quite dedicated to the antique.
Is this something you collect yourself as well, or is
no?
No, you like it, you identify it,
and
it's purely stock to sell.
It is purely stock.
See, that's why I could never have a shop selling collectibles.
Because you'd keep them all.
Because I'd keep them all. I'd just shut up the door. No one's coming in. No, you can't have that. Put that back.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There are things I've kept.
There are. Oh, right. So now it comes out.
There are a few things I've kept, and it might be like a nice glass vase or something like that that I might need to put on the mantelpiece. Show my age a little bit. The mantelpiece. That's what Grandma used to call it.
That's what people still call it. It's a mantelpiece. Yeah, it's
whatever it's called these days.
Yeah. Usually we haven't got a fire underneath it now, but it's a mantelpiece.
Yeah. Usually not quite as that real fire feel. And we've had quite a lot of brass fire tools, the little prodders and what do they call them?
Poker, yeah.
And the little shovels, the little brushes, and they sell really well.
Cuttle.
Yes, that's the one of those two. So
and the strip of leather with the brass rings on it.
Yes.
Which every house had in the 1970s.
It did.
We had them.
Brass horseshoes hanging up over the fireplace or over the door. Lucky.
Not if it falls on you.
No. True. So we do your traditional house clearances. In terms of the bigger picture of what we do, maybe you've cleared out your shed because your wife's been harassing you to do it for years.
How did you know?
Around to it.
How did you know that?
Or the other way around. People have all sorts of reasons for clearing things out. It might be a garage, a shed, it might be the loft, it might be your moving house, and you're starting to purge some of your stuff. And so we'll go and pick up bin bags. 5 or 6 bin bags is probably the minimum we would do if it's local. And we'll go and clear a shop that's maybe gone out of business, or light industrial, small units, businesses like yours. We did one in Warrington a couple of months ago. It was probably similar size to this room. And downstairs was similar. The offices were downstairs and they had meeting rooms and all the furniture was less than 2 years old, all the office furniture.
That's quite sad, isn't it?
And they were going to skip it all.
That is very sad.
And I said, don't skip it. Can we take it?
Because it's not cheap, office furniture.
It's bloody not cheap.
It's not cheap at all.
It's anyway, we took most of it and sold it.
Yeah.
So we didn't get paid for the clearance job, but our money was in the recycling, if you like.
Yeah.
So
you've got to be careful then when you price stuff up like that you think you can get the money back on doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another part of our work on the commercial side, so just so people are aware really as well, and from an interest point of view, and people don't realise this goes on, even if you live in these large blocks of flats in Liverpool and Manchester, they have a bin store. And in these bin stores are typically 1,100 litre wheelie bins, with the lids. And there's ones for recycling, and there's ones for cardboard, and there's ones for general waste. We do quite a lot of those whereby in the middle of the night, the tenants, because they don't tend to have cameras in them, the tenants will come down and dump a bed or a wardrobe, or even worse, a big sofa in the bin store. Yeah. So next morning, Biffa or Veolia or whoever comes along, council contractors to empty the bins and wheel them out, by the doorway is a sofa. So they just turn around and go. So those 24 bins in this big room, probably as big as this, in the basement of the block of apartments, the bins don't get emptied. So you've got 2 weeks now, so you've got another 2. And we've done somewhere the whole rooms have been full. Nobody's reported it. They've just piled up, and then there's been rats. And so we clear out those.
To be honest, we get that.
That's what we do. You get it here.
Right next to this office, there's a... What was it, like a brick compound right there?
Yeah,
and
some
there's
of them outside.
Three of those big biffa bins in it.
Yeah.
Literally biffa bins. Yeah. And every now and then somebody will dump a load of office chairs in there.
Or dump a fridge freezer there or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some big metal thing there. I can't remember what that was. And yeah, they don't empty it. Biffa turn up, look at it, and piss off again.
Yeah.
And it gets like that for a long time.
And they've been told not to, because it's not their job to remove things out. The access should be clear.
Yeah, and it stays there. And a lot of the problem is as well, those bins are locked.
Yeah, so passers-by can't dump stuff in it.
So they dump it on the floor next to it.
Even worse.
But then you get people from here who go in to put stuff in, and they can't put it in the bin because the bin is locked and no one's got the bloody key. So you can't actually open the thing to put it in. So they just chuck it on the floor.
And then the cats and the foxes and the mice and rats, whatever.
Squirrels. We got a lot of squirrels there. There's always a squirrel in that
trees.
Bin. Yeah. It's just
and
self-perpetuating, and the mess just gets there.
Once the bags are opened up, then you've got the seagulls are coming in, dive bombing, and it happens. But some of the bin stores inside are just so badly designed. There's not much airflow, and they just stink. And we had one where it was bursting out of the door. We ended up. This was in Manchester, in Salford Quays. I think we had about 680 black bin bags. I think it was about 3 or 4 van loads, big van loads, jumbo transit van loads.
And there's going to be some nappies in there as well.
It's rotten food, it's nappies, it's cat litter, So and then it's the case where you don't even get anywhere near your front door. The bottom of your drive, you almost have to strip off because you're covered in bin juice. So it's not that glamorous. There are days when it's you could do with having a shower at the end of the drive, because you're like.
I think that's a beautiful place to end it, quite frankly.
It probably is.
I think you've created a lovely image for us. I think we all appreciate that.
That's what we love.
You covered in bin juice, nappies, cat litter, rotten food and sick, being hosed down at the end of the driveway.
Living the dream.
Before you're allowed anywhere near the front door of the house.
Living the dream.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Phil. Not going to get that out of my head for the rest of the day.
There's an insight into the waste world.
It's glamorous. It's just like at the beginning. It's all about the mafia. It's about the beautiful life. Yeah,
it is red carpet stuff.
Exactly. So anyone listening to this wants to use you to get you for All My Waste, or wants to visit the shop, what's the best way for them to contact you?
We have got 3 Facebook pages. We've got All My Waste Facebook page. We've got Love Retro Facebook page. That's got the shop opening hours. We've got Local Man and Van Service Facebook page. Our website's not quite ready yet. Will be probably in the next few weeks.
It'll be live by the time this goes out.
That would be nice.
Won't it, Phil?
Yes.
Not.
They can contact us on Facebook Messenger as well once they've found our website. We've just acquired a free phone number, so that's going to be on the website as well. So contact us through social media.
Okay.
We've also got a Google My Business page, so you can find our details on there as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Phil. I will put all of those details below the podcast.
Fantastic.
So I'll put all the links below there, the links below the video, so people can contact you.
Superb.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for your time as well. Appreciate it.
Thanks.